Round of applause to Norberto, please. Just a quick presentation. Norberto Guimaraes is a leading voice in the conversational AI and the founder of Talka, a company dedicated to improving human communication through AI. His previous company, Clever Sense, was acquired by Google, and then at Google he worked both at YouTube and Google Play, bringing new strategies to those platforms. Later he was selected as co-chair at Google's AI research conference in the ML track. Now he works in Talka, where he's applying the power of video, AI, language to all to make better conversations with AI. But I won't be the one to explain you that. You will. So, Norberto, go for it.
Okay. Hi. Need the clicker. Yeah. Well, thank you, everyone, and thank you for the introduction, and thank you for inviting me here. It's kind of a pleasure because I usually don't spend much time in Porto speaking, although my company is about speaking. I'm not speaking that much over here, so thank you for this opportunity. So I'm the founder and CEO of Talka. Talka was actually a born global startup. So back in the pandemic, I was in the Silicon Valley working at Google, AI research, and that's where it was founded. But almost simultaneously, the pandemic came, so came to Portugal, and my co-founder at the time was in Toronto. So we actually started in 3 places almost simultaneously from the get-go. We have people from AI research from Google, DeepMind, and other AI research institutions. And actually one of the investors is the co-founder of OpenAI, so I'm pretty happy about that from the early times. We have deep expertise in AI and also in revenue excellence. So I've been at Google for many years. Our company was the first acquisition in AI space from Google in 2010. And I had the whole wave of AI within Google, including leading YouTube video recommendations and so on. And I was at the time when these papers that appear in Transformer, they was like my colleagues at Google. And Wang, is a researcher from Carnegie Mellon and Technical, and he also was an early person within the Google DeepMind team in NLP team, so natural language understanding. And Sergio Gonzalez also worked at Google, Twitter, and Stripe, and before founding a company in this space and joining us. So that's the team. We are primarily in Lisbon, but we also have, some offices here in Edifício Transparente. It's free for whatever you want to come and join. Talka was named one of the top AI startups in the world by CB Insights, and the only one in the sales intelligence space a few years ago. We're proud about this. So let me tell you a bit about how we fit in the whole Gen AI space. So when Gen AI started, it was primarily about text as the input and the output. So you had things like summaries, helping you create emails, helping you translate, and some coding. That's the initial part of it. But Talka is really about understanding conversations. So Talka is now in the now Gen AI frontier, which is understanding video, images, and generating them. So that's the multimodality part of it. Of course, there's a lot of work in the industry-based kind of AI, Gen AI applications such as legal, biology and health, and whole coding assistants that you might be familiar with. And then of course, there's a lot of work in AI agents and full automation, which we're doing a little bit about, but that's not our main focus. Our main focus is really about the first thing, multimodality, understanding conversations. So that's our focus. So we try to extract the video angle about a conversation, a video conversation, the voice angle, so the audio, and then the context and the text to blend it all together to understand really deeply what's going on. So our motto is unlock the unspoken. And we try to record the video from the sales meetings. They are going on via Zoom and other recording applications to extract meaning and decipher body language from those meetings rather than just using the transcript to extract insights. So that's what we do. And this became easier, of course, because during the pandemic, so many people that used to do sales in face-to-face conversations were forced to do it via online. So it just completely changed the dynamic and became ubiquitous. So nowadays, selling primarily happens online. 92% of the buyers actually prefer online selling rather than face-to-face selling. So that really made our work much easier, and we had the data to train our models. What I want to say is that despite all this Gen AI being text and chatting and so on, and email communication and chat communication, the business still lives based on human-to-human communication. That's still the core of how organizations work. And human conversation is the interface that bonds us all together. And there's a reason for that, of course, because humans evolved around fire conversations from the fireplace, and that's how we developed our sense of interaction and connection with other people. So it's really not enough to just base your communication understanding based on transcripts, on AI talking notes. You really have to take into account the full spectrum about that communication. So that's what the problem of the current AI note takers happens. Like they just transcribe and they just summarize what the text. They don't have insight beyond that, and they miss 80% of the real communication. There's been research done on sales, human sales, that says that 80% of what's being communicated is not available in the transcript, and that's where we're focusing on. So things like the tacting, the nuances about interruptions and the interests of people, and the smiles and all that. There's a lot of signals that we humans learn based on our biology to detect automatically, and an AI system simply cannot. So that's what we're trying to do. So, for example, here on the left, you'd have left and the right, you'd have exactly the same transcript. The customer here would say, "Oh, that sounds interesting." But on the left, the person is not looking away, he's like really disinterested. On the right, he seems engaged. And the only way to tell this difference apart is to actually understand the video, the context. And it would mean that on the left, you have a very low chance of winning this deal. On the right, you have a big chance. And that's what we're trying to focus on. So how does Talka work with actual business meetings? Business meetings is a different set of communication than other types of communication. And the aspect that Talka does, that it looks at the business meeting, but also looks at what happens later. So it's similar to RL. So our rewarding function is what happens at the end of the deal. So you might have 5-6 meetings, you might have a lot of emails, you might have a lot of action until the customer decides to buy or not to buy. And we train our models based on what happens at the end of the process. This might be 6 months down the line, but that week signal needs to come back to anything that happened during the meetings. And we use large amounts of data, hundreds of thousands of calls that we have access to then understand what are the key events and what are the key body language features that actually make an impact in a given call. So traditional tools transcribe, and we try to interpret the actual meeting. So how it works from the sales team's perspective. So they can install a recorder that records all the calls. You can also upload all the meetings that you have recorded in the past. And then we interpret like the body language signals and voice signals from those. We extract events from those. And then we give you insights on how to close faster, sell better, train your sales teams at scale. I'll give you a quick product tour about Talka. This is not a demo, but it just goes through the main aspects about what Talka does. So, generally, I'm sorry that's not very focused, but that's the projector's fault, not your eyes. So we give you a score about how likely is this meeting going to lead to winning or losing this deal. You can actually see it minute by minute. So if the meeting would stop at any moment, how likely would it be that you would win or lose this deal? So you can see jumps that are green means that something positive happened, and you can see the highlight, what happened, in an audio-visual angle. So it doesn't just tell you what was said, but how was the interaction at the moment and why it was positive. This is based on an actual model that predicts, based on these hundreds of thousands of calls, what's going to happen. And then you just have the basic stuff as well, like the summary and action items and next steps and so on. So that's the basic as well, but it provides much more insight than other tools. It also works in any language, by the way. So we separate this product into different sections. What we call Talka Capture is the basics, which is like capturing every call, putting that information to CRM. That's how companies collect information about sales in the CRM system. And we extract, the pain points, action items, and stuff like that. So that's the basic. That is what Talka does. Analyzes over 60 body language features. We have, trained on hundreds of thousands of examples that we annotated, and then we link that back to the success or not success of meetings. And we have, we have at every time, we can tell you things like active listening, people are looking away, how the hands are moving. We have different gestures about how you touch your face and stuff like that. And then what we Talka reveal, which is we reveal those insights. We extract all this data and we're able to pinpoint, because each moment represents a lot of data. But if you have 3 or 4 people in a meeting, imagine each micro expression of all these people at all the time during a 30-minute meeting, and then multiply by n meetings for a deal, then there's millions and millions of data points for a single deal. And we pinpoint what are the key moments across these millions of points that actually did make a difference, so that you can learn and discover actionable understanding, things that you can improve for the future, for you and for your team. So this also allows you to recover certain deals. For example, certain deals that went south, you can say, okay, was there a moment in which the customer really, the eyes were shining? They were really excited about the answer. So you can go back and try to recover that deal, for example. And of course, for coaching, you can tell this person does it much better than you. So you can see the differences between the same team handling the same customer objection or pricing and so on. So it's not guesswork. This is really based on data. And we provide you, things like this, like specific, for example, Bernardo's laughter, a nodding show growing interest in Flexor's benefits, suggesting momentum towards the deal, things like this. So essentially, we teach machines how to read people. And we do this by providing the AI models context about what's going on, audio-visual signals that we extracted, and events that we extracted over a lot of data, and then also providing it the outcomes that we know from lots of deals. So all of that we provide. And this is a real example. I just extract that today. So it says, at minute 25 from this particular meeting, the prospect said in a confident tone, they're fine with their current provider, which probably means they're not very interested, right? But the rep, which is the sales rep, kept energy and eye contact and steered the conversation toward possible gaps. Here probably is like gaps that the customer has so they can explore product fit. So that particular interaction actually increased the odds of the deal by 4%. So it's a real example from the product today. So it's, you can see how it tells a lot of context about the interaction, the dynamics, and how that actually made a difference. So then the Talk X-ray does this at scale for the deals. So it's one thing to do it for one meeting. It's another thing to see it for all the deals and do an X-ray of your company. So we look at the whole pipeline and separate what are the things in your particular company that are creating the wins from the things that are creating the losses. And we provide you a table that would show things like, in your particular company, incumbent switching cost is really important. And this is how much you lose when this happens. And then when you click on this, you can actually see how different sales reps deal with the same situation. Some might have actually a much better win rate than others. So you can, again, learn from the best sales team members in your team. And then you can coach. We have virtual customers that we create based on real customers, so that you can train and have conversations that mimic the real conversation that happen in your real sales calls, so that you can have a way for the system to observe you in a controlled environment. So you can practice with AI buyers essentially, and you can parameterize that and give like different personalities of the buyers, different sales objections. So once you can train, it's like your test, being tested over and over again to get difficult balls, and you need to be able to return them as a real salesperson. And we also have a system to do that in real time during a call. So you're having a call with a customer, it's going to be able to tell you the things that you typically tend to fail. When that happens, it reminds you to do something different. So that's what we call Talka Roleplay and Talka Live. And of course, this works for global teams, so it works in any language. It works, you can do it everything in the language that it was recorded, or click English and everything gets translated to English. So the ultimate goal is to replicate the performance of the best sales members in your team to the whole of the rest of the company. And even the best sales reps, they have always something that they can improve if you compare their weak spots. So everyone can improve, really. And we benchmark across all the sales team members in soft skills as well as hard skills, things like specific sales objections and things that you can memorize. We do that at scale, and it makes the job of the manager really easy to coach people. So in the end, you have a virtual loop, virtuous loop, I mean, because with Talka Capture, you capture the events, then you sense all the body aspects and body language aspects, then reveal with insights, then you have the X-ray about the whole company, and then you can feed that into the role play and Talka Live to again improve. So it's a virtual cycle where everyone is improving all the time and driving impact. So when AI really deeply understands the conversation, you can get a lot more out of the sales team. So for example, we get about 80% predictive accuracy based on one call. We can predict like 6 months later if that's going to be a win or a loss just based on the first call. And it gets much faster onboarding for the sales team. They can very quickly train and by themselves, and you just get generally more sales performance. But remember, this is about understanding conversation. We apply to sales, but the same technique could apply to any other aspect of business, and in fact, even outside of business. So things like hiring, recruiting, leadership skills and management skills, teaching environments, healthcare, like doctor-patient discussions, or even legal counsel and so on. So all of communication in the world is critical for business, and this kind of techniques can be used there. We're not focusing there. There are companies that are, but it's interesting that understanding the conversation really unlocks a lot of potential for AI and Gen AI. So this is my last slide. I'm trying to convey the vision to unlock the unspoken. Large language models understand words, but the multimodal and AI really understands the people, which are us humans. And that's how we make machines more human and humans more effective. Thank you.